a child, Theodore Roosevelt, 26th President of the United States, suffered from severe asthma and weak eyesight. As a young man, he partially overcame this by adopting a lifestyle of physical exertion. He developed a strong physique and a lifelong love for vigorous activity. Later in life, he served as Assistant Secretary under President William McKinley of the Navy, but he resigned to lead the Rough Riders during the Spanish-American War. He states in a letter to his son regarding competition within the Rough Riders, "In my regiment, 9/10 of the men were better horsemen than I was, and probably 2/3 of them better shots. While on average, they were certainly hardier and more enduring. Yet after I had had them a very short while, they all knew, and I knew too, that nobody could lead them as I could." Roosevelt closes by reminding his son to never slip into the mindset that constitutes competition as the means to which his efforts are devoted, or even as a major portion of his energies. Roosevelt balanced his love of athletics and gift of leadership with an indifference to winning, and encouraged his son to do the same. Roosevelt maintained a perception of competition that counters many people's today. Where one falls amongst others is not an accurate representation of skill. It is evident in classrooms, stadiums, and homes that competition is often used as a tool by which motivation is enhanced. While some individuals benefit from environments like these, the vast majority of children especially are crushed by the damaging implications. As a whole, competition within academics, athletics, and home life accentuates perceived incompetence, deters emotional envelopment, and inhibits the benefits of exercise. Competitive school environments are harmful to students. By the end of 3rd grade, 1 of 5 concludes that they cannot master the expected material. By the time students enter 10th grade, many have struggled enough academically to perceive themselves as incompetent. This regression of competence can be attributed to an atmosphere of competition established by students with good intentions of motivating their students. Oftentimes, this approach works well for the top percentage of the class. The rest's performance, however, decreases exponentially. Why then do we continue to foster competitive classrooms? New York Times best-selling author Malcolm Gladwell says that when given the opportunity, we form our impressions not globally, but rather locally, meaning we compare ourselves to the people around us and how well they are excelling or failing. Relatively, we feel deprived of competence when we are behind the people around us. Perceived competence is necessary for intrinsic motivation. Therefore, when a student feels behind other students, motivation and performance plummet. Students who create an environment designed to stimulate competition only exacerbate the struggling student's perceived relative deprivation. Students hyper-focus on their competence compared to other children's, altogether forgetting the innate value in learning the material. Due to the theory of relative deprivation, competition within academics is detrimental to performance. Competitive environments are harmful to students. Exercise streamlines the connection between systems in the body. During exercise, the brain releases endorphins into the blood circulation, producing a subjective state of euphoria. This endocrinological advantage of exercise is accompanied by the more well-known benefits, such as boosted immunity, weight loss, bone and muscular strength, cardiovascular health. Exercise also leads to improved sleep and a more stable metabolism. Type 2 diabetes and heart problems are some of the numerous health concerns that can be prevented by exercise. However, extreme coaching and overemphasized competition within exercise or athletics can lead to chronic stress. Any physical or physiological benefits of exercise are reversed by the harm of chronic stress on the human body. Cortisol, which is released from the endocrine system under stress, is linked to an increased chance of muscular injury. It is harmful to the musculoskeletal, respiratory, cardiovascular, endocrine, gastrointestinal, nervous, and reproductive systems. When competition is imposed by coaching, the harmful stress is ensured. Competitive environments are also harmful to children. Excellent children are the fruit of excellent parents. This mindset is brought into by many when raising children. Because of the American ideal of a perfect family, parents are driven to extremes to ensure that their children represent them well. This takes the shape of overbearance and over-control within academics, athletics, and overall performance. In the same way that extreme coaching leads to harmful stress, extreme parenting often leads to the onset of psychological problems caused by an inability to cope with stress. In a study by Margaret McLafferty, childhood adversities, overindulgence, and over-control by parents lead to stress-causing mental health problems, including self-harm as well as suicidal behavior. McLafferty further expounds that these home environments producing chronic stress early in life prevent the development of resilience. Without resilience, children are not able to cope with the chronic stresses ensured within a lifetime. Though many argue that pressure to excel at a young age sets children apart, that pressure ultimately inhibits the necessary emotional development. Why should we as a society examine the competitive environments we are cultivating for ourselves and for our children? The pressure to win is something every human is familiar with. Some temperaments handle its influence well. Others, however, are crippled by it. Because of this, coaches, parents, and teachers should not use it as a means of motivation. And this is not advocating for a participant trophy culture, but rather one that values the process and the fruition of hard work. We never have control over our own or another's talent, but we always are responsible for our effort and attitude. In an address in Paris, Roosevelt concurred with these values, claiming, "The credit belongs to the man who is in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming." He argued that the value in difficulty is not in winning, but rather in persevering. Though physical prowess can be developed and prioritized, and even compared against peers to a certain point, other things transcend its development. Character, leadership, tenacity, and drive should be the end goal towards which your efforts are aimed, and sometimes failure is the best teacher of these virtues. Although competition is a motivation under some circumstances, within the classroom it impedes promising minds. On the court, it increases injury. At home, it stunts development. Competition hinders performance and annihilates intrinsic motivation. In raising the next generation, we cannot take the easy route of competition as a means of expedited motivation. Our competitive environment should be examined and transformed into those that alleviate perceived incompetence, reduce stress, and nurture emotional development.
So my first question for you is, what evidence did you gather that you didn't include? Why did you choose not to include it?
I did a lot of research over competition within home life, and I included the aspect of parents encouraging their children to be competitive, but I didn't include the aspect of parents competing with one another. And competitive co-parenting is definitely a problem, and it has a similar effect to emphasizing competition within children, except it further inhibits emotional development because children don't learn like critical interaction skills and those kinds of interactions because they see their parents competing with one another in what's supposed to be a loving environment.
And what additional questions emerged from your research? Why are these questions important?
So out of my research, I originally started with just the physical of endorphins and benefits of exercise and whether or not competition is gonna cut those out. But in doing research, I added on home life and school. And the most interesting was school for me. And it raised a lot of questions because I've always thought that competition inspires people to work harder and that kind of thing. And it does for the top percentage, like I said, but for the lower percentages, it makes it worse. So the questions out of that came, how do you balance inspiring both sides of the classroom? How do you keep the excellent students excelling, and how do you lift the lower students to a higher standard?